Hi there and welcome to Lorena's Labyrinth. My name's Anna Pirelli. The comments that you see here are my views, beliefs, opinions, and sometimes they are not even my fully formed views, beliefs, and opinions. However, they are my understandings. Please do retain an open mind and reflect on any of the content and your comfort levels. If your views differ, please feel free to leave a comment. Also remember, it is possible to disagree in respectful ways. My way is not necessarily your way and vice versa. You might also find that some of the content on this playlist in regard to spiritual or universal laws, it resonates with you, meaning it feels right to you, while other laws may not feel right or they may not feel comfortable. If this is the case, the information is either not right for you or it is not right for you right now, and it might never be right for you at any given time. It really doesn't matter. As an earthy and practical person, I can put my hand up with all honesty and say that I have at different times had the same feelings about some of the content in here. And with some of them, I still have a level of skepticism within my viewpoints, but I choose to retain an open mind about the things that I don't fully understand for a few reasons. Firstly, because I believe it would be supreme arrogance to think that we all know all of the answers while we have a body. And because what is right for one of us is not necessarily right or suitable for all of us, and I choose to respect the differences. Please do leave your opinions, beliefs. Feel free to argue the points in a respectful way with any of the content on the slides and even my interpretations. And if you feel that you can add clarity around some of the content, we would all love to see it. Thank you. For now, though, let's explore the laws.
All creation is governed by law. The principles that operate in the outer universe, discoverable by scientists, are called natural laws. But there are subtler laws that rule the hidden spiritual planes and the inner realm of consciousness. Contained within these laws, or conditions, is the true nature of matter. Knowledge of these laws has an effect upon the mental urges. Mind is the builder. Stay in full mindfulness of the application of universal law as related to self and to others, and know that in love all life is given, in love all things move. In giving one attains, in giving one acquires, in giving, love becomes the fulfillment of desire, guided and directed in the ways that bring the more perfect knowledge of self as related to the universal, all-powerful, all-guiding, all divine influence in life. Love is life. When we go back, merge with the God source, in some infinitesimal but profound way, we expand the mind of God. Our higher self always points the best and most perfect way, and it is ours to listen and choose or reject what we hear. It does not blame, but patiently tries again to show the perfect way, the loving way. All of creation pushes forth. We are ever becoming. Identity ever remains. Universal Law number 59. The Law of Monadic Return. This law concerns the force of evolution and is the sum total of three influences. The strength of vibrations from the 7 stars of the Great Bear depend upon the closeness of the connection and the accuracy of the alignment between any particular heavenly man and his prototype. Second is the 7 sisters, or the Pleiades. Third is the sun Sirius. It is the appearance or the disappearance of these waves of life force which sweeps into incarnation the divine pilgrims, and which brings about the cyclic manifestation of such great lives as the Silent Watcher and the Great Sacrifice. Within limits, man is the controller of his destiny, wielding forces and energies, manipulating lesser lives and controlling lesser centers of energy, and as time passes, his radius of control becomes even more extensive.
So I don't think I'm even going to try and interpret this law particularly. I'm just going to give you some information that I've picked up along the way with my own life. To some extent, I think we can break part of this law down. The heavenly man, I think, or get the idea that this is a reference to the Christian Bible where the heavenly man is considered to be the creator, in which the Bible says God created man in his image, or some such. Someone, I'm sure, is going to correct me about this. I'm not an expert on the Bible. And anyway, this man is supposed to be his prototype. Now, if I'm correct and we're referring to the Christian Bible, it would... Well, in fact, I don't think it's just the Christian Bible. I think it's actually the Old Testament as well, that Adam was... if you talk about Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden or whatever, that he's supposed to be the original man. But anyway, he was supposed to be the prototype or the heavenly man. So let's move on from this. When we talk about monadic return, which is, of course, reincarnation, the inference here is it depends on the alignment of the bear constellation and where it sits with God. This is what I'm thinking. And that influences the reincarnation process or whatever. So let's take a look at what they call the Great Bear, because in the course of putting together this video, I learned a few extra things. So firstly, I did source this image originally from Scouter Life. It's a blog apparently, and I'll put the link in the description if I remember. If not, ask me, because I do have the link here. Anyway, it was worth putting together a visual, I considered, because I think everybody's aware of astronomy and the different star constellations, because of course that becomes the basis of astrology with all the sun signs and all the rest of it. But within the context of this law, the Great Bear is part of what's called the Big Bear, Great Bear, is the constellation of stars that sits within the Ursa Major. So lucky I've written these words down. Now, I did highlight the dots that represent the stars within the constellation that are called the Seven Sisters. I'm a little impressed, I must admit, how somebody can turn that particular constellation into being a bear, because it looks nothing like a bear to me. Now, the Seven Sisters is actually really quite interesting for me from an Australian perspective, because we're in the Southern Hemisphere, and all my life I've known about the Seven Sisters, but I didn't know they were the Seven Sisters, and I didn't call the Big Dipper the Big Dipper. Basically, wherever I've lived throughout the entirety of my life, if I've moved house, the first thing I do is walk outside in the evenings and try and work out where, get a load of this, I call it the saucepan. Where is the saucepan? If you can see the saucepan, it kind of gives you a sense of connection or belonging or whatever, certainly for me. But anyway, it's never been called a saucepan. That's obviously just what myself and my perhaps siblings and cousins used to call it. It's called the Big Dipper, and the Big Dipper consists of the Seven Sisters. Now, the interesting fact that, or the interesting information I know about the Seven Sisters, is because during my social work training and all the rest of it, I actually went into the Aboriginal communities, and I am aware that the Seven Sisters have very special meaning to Aboriginal people, and I'm also very much aware that Aboriginal people don't feel it's appropriate for white people like myself to be talking about their cultural history. So there is a website that talks about the Seven Sisters and explains it, so I will just talk about it on a very superficial, that within their culture, which they refer to the dreaming, or they call it Aboriginal dream time, the Seven Sisters represent women running from a man who wishes to enter into an unlawful marriage. So they run through the skies. It's far more involved than this, but if you take a look, you could just Google Seven Sisters Australian Aboriginals and you'll probably get information that way. But where I was able to see something straight up was a site called the Japinka, Japingka, Japinka Aboriginal Art website. That has a bit of a story about the Seven Sisters on it. But the Seven Sisters seem to play a role with most cultures, including even with the Greek. So they all have different explanations about the meaning of, or the importance of, the Seven Sisters. And as for Sirius, well, let's move on to the next slide. So before we talk about Sirius, though, let's talk a little more about the Pleiades and the Pleiadians. Now, hopefully my pronunciation is correct. Now, if you take a look at this image here, this is actually of the Seven Sisters. who are also known as the Pleiades. Okay, that's the Pleiades constellation as far as my understanding goes. Anyway, you will note when you look at this constellation that there are actually 8 stars. Now, this ties in with the Aboriginal belief of the 7 women running away from the male who seeks that unlawful union with them. Now, in Australia, we tend to receive, so I feel free to speak about what I'm about to speak about, because we get educated through our national TV service about Aboriginal dream time. I don't think it happens as much anymore, but certainly we become familiarised with it as a non-Aboriginal. So the Aboriginal people refer to their cultural or spirit as the dream time or the dreaming. If I'm correct, I stand to be corrected if need be. And part of that includes the creation theory. And my understanding is that there is a belief that the intergalactic beings came to the Earth plane. And the image that I've got on the right here is the rock art that comes from the Kimberleys region of Western Australia. I've put the name of the website there so you can go and have a look at it if that's what you want to do, if you're more interested in it. But they refer to them as, once again, pronunciation might be an issue. I would say it's the Wandjina sky people. I think that's how you would pronounce that. Anyway, the reason I'm referring to this is because quite often you will hear to people or hear of people, once you start exploring, well, certainly for me, I bumped into a lot of people that referred to themselves as star people or intergalactians. Sometimes they might call themselves Syrians, sometimes they might call themselves Pleiadians, and their belief, and in fact actually they'll call themselves star seeds is another name that they use, and they will position that they believe that they are walking the planet Earth, but their souls are starseed souls. They're not human souls. They will tell you that they are starseed spirits that have been born onto the Earth plane for a purpose, supposedly. I'm trying not to be judgmental about this, okay? Their position is that they are here to help humans. I'm not sure in what way, but, you know, from my perspective, I'm going to ask the questions, I guess, more so that, you know, if they're here to help Earth and humans, how do they do that when they gather in their little clusters and, in my experience, tend to moan about the fact that they don't feel that they fit in on Earth. They feel very misunderstood. They're starseeds and they don't want to be here, is actually quite often what I've heard. I'm sure that there are others that aren't like that. So, yeah, in my experience, they do tend to gather in little cliques. Anyway, as I say, I'm trying not to be judgmental and open-minded, okay, each to their own. I do think that it is possible, if you bring in the Aboriginal folklore and their theories of creation, maybe there is truth to this business of intergalactic. You know, I mean, we'd have to be pretty arrogant as humans, wouldn't we, to think that we're the only life form anywhere throughout multiple galaxies. And realistically, if we look back at ancient Egyptians and all the rest of it, you had the sun worshippers. I know a guy who was a brickie who told me that actually to do the type of brickwork that were done in the pyramids, that they believed that there was no logical or rational explanation for how the Egyptians managed to build the pyramids that they did. So, you know, there is plenty of room for speculation around these things, but I figure let's not get attached to outcomes now. Let's have a chat about Sirius. So when we talk about Sirius, we're referring to the brightest star in the night sky. So for those people that have watched the movie Avatar, they will most likely have heard of Sirius A and Sirius B. Within the context of this video, we're talking about Sirius A as being the brightest star in the night sky, and it's apparently twice as large as the sun, so Google says. It's also known as the dog star and can sometimes be seen in daylight hours, dependent on the conditions. We can see it in Australia sometimes during daylight hours, as it happens. Sirius B is supposed to be a smaller star, also a very bright star, but it is a shadow or a dwarf of Sirius A. I wasn't able to get any really good pictures here, just so you know, but Sirius B is referred to as a pup star. Now, I do encourage you to do your own research on this stuff, because I am absolutely not an expert on anything to do with stars, and I don't consider myself to be a starseed or a Pleiadian, and I really can't speak to whether there is an intergalactic army of blue people, but I would find it very difficult to believe. And I must be honest that in regard to the law of monadic return and this positioning of the stars and all these conditions and all the rest of it, I'm struggling within the comprehension of my small mind to actually understand how this all works together. Maybe there is some kind of logical rationale that somebody out there can put together for us, but that's not going to be me. What else can I say about this subject? Only that, you know, part of me sort of sees that there is a potential for truth, but part of it also comes down to that old saying that, do we really need to know? Do I really need to know all this stuff? Can I just not have faith and belief that everything happens for a reason? Everything is perfect in the divine idea, and I'm happy with how it's unfolding. You know, I get to that round about this point, that's where I'm at. So frankly, I still have questions within the relevance of this law to the Big Bear, the Seven Sisters, the Pleiades, all in the one sentence, because it's as though, or it reads as though they're separate when it would appear to me that they're all part of the one constellation. But anyway, let's move on and unpack the term silent watcher, which sounds a bit like a peeping Tom to me, if I'm honest. However, with a bit of research, I've uncovered the terms were first used by Helena Blavatsky. And I found this information on a website, which I'll put the link up as well. Basically, it's the Theosophist, what's it called? What have I got here? That's good, I can't even speak. Theosophist World, an online encyclopedia. This is where I got this information from. Anyway, it was first written about in her books, and according to her, there were 3 types of silent watchers. Before I talk about them, I want to actually mention that we're at this point, and she's the first person to refer to these silent watchers. First of all, English was not her first language, and the second thing is that this is the first time that these are actually being written about and spoken about in this way, I believe. But I'm sure that we will find the roots of it in the Vedic texts. Anyway, the solar system watchers are, the silent watchers are, in the first instance, the solar system watcher, which is supposed to be the most powerful form of silent watcher, and they're said to watch over the entire solar system. Now, I could probably interpret that as to be angels, okay? The planetary watcher oversees the planet. Once again, I would say that might be angels as well, probably is. And then there's a third type of human silent watcher, which is for human beings. Sorry, a bit all over the shop here at the moment. Anyway, the human silent watcher apparently guides a person and their soul back to the Creator. And it refers, in this online encyclopedia, it refers to the monad as the divine blueprint or the divine prototype. And it is this aspect of self, along with the silent watcher, that guides the evolution of our soul, and this includes reincarnation. Sorry, stumbling over my words a bit because I took a break. I ran away from the computer, I ran back to finish off this slide, so I'm trying to gather myself. I probably should have done that before I started recording again, but such is life. Anyway, where I'm going is, it's around about this point of doing the research that I tend to just go off with the theories. It's all a bit much for me. I suspect that what we're referring here, as said, is to things like what you read about as ascended masters, guides, angels, and anyway, what can I say? Basically, they've all got their tasks of the wise. The great sacrifice is supposed to refer to the human aspect of ourselves, and that is the lower self. You know, that's that earthly part that gets bogged down by human concerns, and it's defined in the dictionary as the part that lies dormant and sleeping and has forgotten that we're divinely connected to the source of the Creator. Can you make sense of that? Because I'm not sure that I've articulated this properly. I hope that you can. I do get that. because that's what we call the awakening, that, or behind the veil. I'm just trying to think of different ways to articulate this. What I have been told and reflected on and see a truth to, although it has been changing over the last decades, is that when we're born into the world, historically, there's the veil that they refer to, where we have forgotten where we've come from, and we need to remember where we have come from, because this is the place to which we return, which of course is the Creator. And in the process, we awaken to our individual unique powers, our divine path, and all of this kind of thing. So to me, that makes sense. But I say the but because obviously over more recent decades, you've got people waking up and embracing their gifts. What I do take a little bit of issue with is the last paragraph, because for me it doesn't resonate. It's got that stink of control about it again, where to me, if it's divine, it's about love. It doesn't seek to control, and it doesn't seek to compete. And the paragraph reads, within limits, man is the controller of his destiny, wielding forces and energies, manipulating lesser lives, alarm bells, and controlling lesser centers of energy. And as time passes, his radius of control becomes even more extensive. Look, as I say, the reason it doesn't resonate with me is because I don't see anything in that passage about love. I'm just reading about control and power and manipulation. And I don't know if I've misinterpreted this, but it doesn't really sound like something that resonates with me, or that I even like the thought of. What about you? I mean, that would be the question, I think I actually, sorry, that little pause was me reflecting on this. I did read up that at different times over the decades that there have been people that have accused the Theosophists of being a cult. And when I look at this particular passage, that last one, I can see why they would refer to it as a cult. But look, please do leave your own thoughts and feedback. I'm very, very interested. As I say, when we look at these things, these are channelings at best. And when we channel, there's always room for human error. Like we hear a story and then we tell a story. We might miss bits of it or add a little bit in. And this is why we've got to look to our own inner resources to find truth for ourselves. So what truth or what sense can you make of this particular law? Is there anything that you would like to add to it or question? I'm certainly open to it. I'm going to leave it with you. Take care for today. See you next time. Bye-bye.